Everybody loves homemade soup, and this recipe for broccoli cheddar soup is lightened up by all this broccoli. Isn't that beautiful? Now we're going to shred our cheese. I'm going to insert the stem and our medium shredding disc. I'm going to pop the top on. Now it's really important that your cheese is really cold because it's going to shred better that way. Okay, here we go. And we're shredding. Pretty fast. Okay, I'm going to remove the shredding disc. And I'm going to remove the stem. I'm going to pop out our cheddar. Now, we're going to do the garlic and the onions. I have my large work bowl. Then, with the motor running, I'm going to add the garlic. That's chopped nice and fine. Okay, and in go our onions. These have been cut in 1-inch pieces so that they process really evenly. Lids on. I'm going to pulse just to get it going. Those are nicely chopped. Okay. Now, these are going to go onto a plate. Beautifully chopped. That would take you forever by hand. There we go. Gonna get most of those out. Set those off to the side. Now we're gonna do our broccoli stems. All right, stems have a little bit of a fibrousness to them, so we're gonna peel these. I've already peeled these ahead of time. And you know, you don't have to be real precise on it. You just kind of take some of the big pieces off here. All right, I've already peeled these stems here. And we already have these potatoes peeled too. And now we're going to put the slicing disc. First the stem goes in. And then we're going to adjust our slicing disc from 1 to 4. Very easy. So convenient. Okay, and that just pops right in. Put my lid back on. Remove the top, and then I think I'm going to start with my potatoes first. I might actually go a little potatoes, a little broccoli, kind of just back and forth. Mix things up a little bit. Add a couple of potatoes in there. And I'm going to pulse this because that gives me a little bit more control. Okay, now I'm going to add some broccoli stems. I'm going to put those through the small feed tube, and you want to put I'm putting 3 of the smaller ones in here. You want it full, but not too full. I'm going to pulse them. There we go. This one's a biggie. It's going in by itself. This is going to give us some nice round discs, similar to our discs like the potatoes, so we get even cooking. Now we'll finish up the potatoes. I have 2 left. That's the last of the potatoes. We have our broccoli florets, which we're going to add in whole later. We have our cheddar cheese, our broccoli stems, our potatoes, and I have the onions and garlic, which I'm going to take over here because we're going to start our soup. I'm adding the oil in to my pan that is preheated. Then I'm going to add my onions and garlic. You can hear it sizzle. Stir that around, and we just want to soften the onions and garlic. There they go, so fragrant smelling. Can you smell those? That's beautiful. Just keep moving it around. You can let it set a little bit if you want to get a little bit of goldenness going on it. Keep it moving. This is going to take about 8 to 10 minutes for this to soften up. So you just want to cook it slowly before we add our next ingredients. Those onions look great. All right, now we're going to add our broccoli stems and our potatoes. There we go. There's lots of them. The potatoes are going to help thicken the soup a little bit. So we're going to stir that around. And then I'm going to season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. You know, and really go with what you like. Potatoes will take up a lot of salt, so you can be a little bit generous with it. If you like a lot of pepper, then go for it. Okay, this broccoli has a little bit of color to it now. The green is just popping, and we're going to add our sherry. Dry sherry is wonderful in soup. I love sherry in soups. It really adds kind of a richness, a roundness, and really pops the flavor. We're going to let it cook until it's almost reduced and evaporated. You can see in the bottom of the pan there, it's almost all evaporated. Just a few minutes more. The sherry's completely evaporated now, and I'm going to add the broth. There we go. This is a vegetable broth. You could also make it with chicken broth if you like. We're going to bring this up to a boil. And you know, if you don't have time to make homemade broth, there's some wonderful ones that you can purchase. Everybody's in a hurry these days. You know, just putting the extra effort in the soup is going to make it taste fabulous. Now we're going to let that come to a boil. Let's see how that soup is doing. Okay, boy, that's at a good boil. All right, I'm going to add the broccoli florets. Just drop those in carefully. And we have a little bit of our cheese, about 1 cup of our shredded cheese. That's cheddar. It's going to add a lovely richness to the soup. Put that in. And then a little lemon zest. And lemon zest, again, is great if you're doing a recipe that's a little on the lighter side. It adds a nice flavor pop to it. And then a touch more salt and pepper. And again, however much pepper you like. If you like a lot, go for it. And we're going to simmer this until the broccoli florets are tender and our potatoes are tender. And we're going to turn our heat down to a simmer. There we go. Our soup is ready. Our broccoli and potatoes are nice and tender. Now we're going to strain it. I have my strainer bowl over another bowl to catch all of the broth. So we're straining this so that we have our solids separate, so that when we process it, it's easy to do. Here we go. That looks good. The smell is delicious. And there goes our last spoonful. Now we're going to process the broccoli and the potatoes. I'm going to pop in the large chopping blade, and I'm going to start putting in my broccoli and potatoes. Nice and tender. This should process up really well. Okay, this is my last couple little spoonfuls of the potatoes and broccoli here. And we're going to start processing. I'm going to snap my lid on. I'm going to pulse just to get it started here. Now I'm going to process. I'm going to scrape it down just a little bit. Go. Ooh, almost ready. All right, we're there. Now we're going to go into our broth. Just stand back. So this is pureed, so this is going to give us a nice, really, really creamy texture. And it's going to thicken our soup. So unlike traditional broccoli cheddar soups that might have a lot of cream in them, this one is very brothy, so it's pretty healthy. And there's a little bit of cheese in it, but that's okay. So we're just going to stir that in until it's smooth. Look at that, it's coming together beautifully. Okay, then our next step is we're going to add our last little bit of cheese. It's just going to get all kind of ooey gooey in there. Sprinkle that in. You know, and if you like it a little cheesier, you can always add a little bit more. So that's going to be just delicious in there. Now, I'm going to taste this to see if I want a little bit more salt and pepper. Okay, here we go. I'm going to put a little bit more salt in there. And maybe a little bit more pepper. Now, this is an important step depending upon if you're using a purchased chicken stock that is a little bit saltier, or a low sodium, or a homemade. That's really going to depend upon the amount of seasoning that you put in. And if you like your soup a little bit thinner, you can always add a little bit more broth to it too. I think this looks good. I like mine a little bit on the thicker side. And now we're going to serve it up. I have a beautiful plate here that we're going to dish our soup up into. Here we go. Ooh, see all that cheese? Wow. We call that cheese pull. I'm going to do a couple of ladles in here. And then I'm going to garnish with a little bit of cheddar on top. Love that hearty texture. Now, if you like a very fine soup, you can always process it a little bit more or a little bit less if you like it chunkier. Now, I have a little wet towel here, and I'm just going to wipe up any sides. I'm going to put a little bit of cheddar on top here. There we go. And I'm going to garnish it with a little piece of parsley. I can't wait to dig into this soup. Serve it with some rustic bread or crackers. It can be a starter to a meal or the entree. Enjoy.